It's the middle of January and we're here at our local MicroCenter and I'm going to teach Jordan how to 3D print today.
It's really cold. All right, it is way warmer in here. Now we're in the maker section of our local MicroCenter, and last time we hung out, Andy was teaching me what 3D printing is.
Yep.
What are we doing today?
Today, you're going to buy an Ender-3 V3 KE. We're going to take it back to the lab. We're going to have you actually put it together and we're going to do our first print.
Cool. All right, so where can we get one of these? Also, which one is that one?
So this here is actually the Ender-3 V3 KE. And what's nice about this one is it has Klipper installed. Klipper is a firmware that's being used on printers that is a good bit faster than the old Ender-3 Pros. And this one even comes with a touchscreen and some USB ports so you could connect a USB webcam to it so that you could monitor it remotely. So let's go ahead and grab this one.
All right, let's go check out. Wait, we got the printer. Does this come with filament?
Oh, shoot. I'll go grab some. So we're going to go ahead and unbox this and we're going to put it together. We're going to try not to speed it up too much so you can see the full process and you can experience what it might be like for you to go buy one and set it up for yourself at home.
I have no idea what I'm doing. So Andy's going to walk me through this process from A to Z, and then we'll have a 3D print hopefully by the end of it.
Sure, absolutely. Let's get started by opening the box.
All right, let's get into this.
Wow.
Look at that. That is foam. What is this?
So that's going to go up on top of the printer and it's going to mount the spool holder here, but it's also got the filament runout sensor mounted to it already. So we'll hook a wire up to here and that'll basically tell the 3D printer when your spool is out of filament before the end of the filament gets the whole way to the head. So it can pause the print for you.
Cool. We have our handy dandy manual. Remember, always RTFM, read the fantastic manual.
Oh yeah.
I came up with that. You like
Fabulous.
that? Yeah, fabulous. All right, I got a little, this looks like the spool goes on this.
Yep, the spool goes on that. We'll attach that in a little bit.
Haha. Oh, it's got a screen. Is this one touchscreen?
The benefit of this one is that, yes, it's a touchscreen over the old dial, and this has the Klipper software in it. So basically, you have 2 USB ports, which will allow you to attach one of their cameras, which will carry shortly. And then this will hook up to the main board of the printer as well through that connector there. So we'll attach that in a little bit.
Sweet. All right, so we got a bag of goodies. Looks like we have some free filament and a whole bunch of other stuff. All right, put that aside. And, oh, that's a big guy.
Yeah, I think, the foam might come out next before you pull out.
All right, I'm gonna put this in a nice, clean, orderly fashion over there.
No, you're not. So this is the upper gantry of the 3D printer. This is where you're gonna get your Z or Z movement and your X axis. I always get confused with X and Y. I don't know, I'm 37 years old and I still haven't learned that.
Well, let me X you something. Why is that? Okay, so this is the base. Looks like.
That'll have inside of it the power supply, the main board, the bed,
Lots of cables.
mostly electronics. What I will say is that as we experienced with even the Ender-3 V2 and the Ender-3 V3 SE that we've already done a video on, assembling these is way, way easier than it used to be. If you go back to the Ender-3 Pro, there was a lot more you had to do with this upper gantry that you no longer have to do.
Yeah, this is like one solid unit. M3 8 screws. So
All right.
we use 8 of those M3 screws.
So now we're gonna dig into our parts bag. They gave us a little bit of test filament, which we will appreciate but not use because we've got some inland filament we're gonna use. We've got 1, 2, 3 bags of hardware, 4-ish. We've got some tools to help us put it together. We've got our ever appreciated handy dandy diagonal clippers. It's for making sure you got a good clean cut on your filament before you load it. And then we've got some grease, some metal grease. So this thumb drive will most likely have software on it, the Creality slicer, but it will also most likely come with some pre-sliced prints, like a Benchy maybe. that we will use, and it's a good 16 gigabytes. You can put a lot of 3D files on a 16 gigabyte thumb drive. So
how big is the average like 3D file?
Under a megabyte.
Oh,
once they when they start getting more organic and fun, they might go up to a few megabytes.
That's still
I don't know that I've ever seen a 3D file over 10.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Well, then we got plenty of space. I do want to call out, there's one thing I do appreciate. I like that all of the screws are in bags that are very clearly labeled what they are. I really appreciate that. I've assembled a lot of furniture and it's just a big bag of screws and you don't know what's what. All right, we got everything laid out here. We got our tools, we got our screws. Let's take a look at the manual.
What are we going to do first, Jordan?
Looks like this just goes into this now, right? Or do we plug everything in first?
Nope. Let's go ahead and screw the upper gantry into the base first.
Nice. All right, so this has like a T shape to it. So it looks like there's only one way for this to go in. So I can't possibly mess this up, right?
Potentially, but what I would say is watch your cables. So I don't know if we probably need to feed this cable down.
Oh, I see it.
Through that hole.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
And then any cables on the other side, I think you're all right.
No cables, just screws.
Okay.
Nice.
We're gonna flip the machine over and we're gonna attach these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws and then connect the cable.
All right, cool.
So let's figure out how best to do that.
All right, we're gonna secure it with the M3.
Probably those guys.
Yeah, because there's 6 of them in the bag. That makes sense.
Yep.
6 holes, 6 screws. All right, we flip this on the side. I can see the screw holes here.
Yep.
All right, so 3 and 3. Let's see which one of these Allen keys is the right one. Let's see if
one that fits.
Oh, I got it on the first try.
Wow.
Look at that.
And it's a good idea when you're doing that to not tighten them the whole way right away. So tighten them relatively tight and then go back at the end once everything is well seated. That way you do have an option to kind of wiggle it around if one of the M3s is not going in right. All right, so if you put in all of those 6 screws, you're gonna go around and make sure you've tightened them up a little bit. And then you're gonna connect that cable right there.
Right, I see the cable here.
And I believe that cable is what controls the Z motors for the up and down axis.
So we have, this is the cable that we fed through. And this looks like the connector. Pretty easy peasy. Just kind of fits in there. All right, so I got this hooked up and connected.
Yep, let's go ahead and stand the printer back up. Be careful of cables. All right, there's 2 screws we've got to put here. So let's go ahead and rotate that around. And we'll identify which ones those are with the M3 8 screws.
Let's see, M4 10. Oh, M5 8 and M3 8.
Yep, I'm guessing they're the smaller ones.
Cool. All right, these are all set.
All right, and before we move on to the next step, there's 2 other things I'm noticing that I'd like to take care of right now. One is removing this foam that came when it shipped from underneath the bed. So let's go ahead and do that. There's a piece on the other side too. Nice.
Dispose of this properly.
As always. So the other thing I want to check here is this voltage switch in the back. So this voltage switch determines what the voltage coming in does in the actual power supply. So what we're going to want to do is make sure to switch it from 230 volts, which it came from the factory, to 115 volts for us here in the US. One good way to do that is using a small Allen wrench and get in that little rectangle there and push it over until you see the 115. The next thing it has us doing is installing the display screen, which is here, using, I believe, 3 M4x10 screws. There they are. So what I like to do is I like to feed one in initially, feed it in through one of the holes.
Yeah, there we go. That's smart.
And then line it up. That should get you started on just the first one.
I see the ribbon cable here. Looks like it has a little notch.
Yep.
Looks like it just lines right up. And there we go. I think we're all set.
Yep.
Cool.
We do need to install the filament holder and this piece of the filament holder as well. So for this, you're going to need to unscrew this. So it's kind of like a little puzzle thing. It goes down and then screws on. So it's a little bit tricky that way. We're going to put it in there and then install that on the back.
So I think we want to keep this guy loose until we figure out
It will.
filament, right?
Yeah, it'll always be a little bit loose to move with the filament.
Oh, you want this loose?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
That guy will always be a little bit loose.
That's a feature, not a bug. Does this go this way? Looks like it goes forward, right?
Yes. We need those M5 8 screws. So I think we're ready to start plugging in the remaining cables and then plugging it into power. Connecting this large ribbon cable to the head of the printer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, just to make it a little bit easier for you, I'm going to go ahead and lower this down quite a bit. And we're going to be taking that ribbon cable and we're going to be placing it through, we'll get a separate shot for this. We're going to be taking that ribbon cable and placing it through a holder on the back of the machine here and then into this head here, making sure that these are open before it goes in. Kind of like if you're installing RAM on a motherboard, very similar.
I'll turn this guy around.
Yep.
All right, so I got the cable here.
Yep, and they've even marked on the cable with a sticker where it needs to go into the strain relief. So this piece right here will go into these clips right here. That just gives you a good spacing or a good area where you need to do that.
That's the best way to do this, just kind of shove it in.
Yep, you can bend it a little bit.
Start here.
Put it in the bottom first, bend it out, and then feed it into the top.
So it looks like this guy is going to go into this guy.
Yep.
All right, so I got a cable here, goes into this motor.
Yep, and that's the motor that moves the hot end in the X direction, as is marked on that little connector there. And they should be keyed, so there's really only one way that that should be able to go in.
All right, now I got this guy, so I'm going to run this around the back. Yeah, I see there's a notch here, and then there's a hole in the back, so I'm going to flip it around. It's going to go just like that. There we go.
Clicked up, make sure those guys click up.
Yep.
And then it's going to have us install this little retainer clip here with these 2 screws. In this bag, we also had the retainer clip, the 2 screws, and an extra nozzle. So let's go ahead and install that retainer clip.
Cool.
What we're going to do is we're going to rotate it one more time here, and we're going to pull the bed forward, unveiling what would control the Z motor. So we found one more cable that we need to plug in up here, which is for the runout sensor. So go ahead and plug that in. Again, another keyed cable, so it should only go in one way. Little notches are your best friend.
There we go. All right, cool. So that's it.
That's it. We're going to plug it in and turn it on now.
All right, so we have our plug on the side. I'll put it in the off position first before I plug it in. Moment of truth. Let's see if we did it right. It's making noises. I see the screen is on.
All right, we're going to set our language first.
You sprechen Sie Deutsch?
9.
All right, we'll do English.
Thank you.
Next step. I accept everything, and I will not read that. Hey, I always forget. What are we? UTC -5 or yeah, -5, right? EST. That's us.
Sure.
We're gonna set our time zone.
Let's skip. Is that a skip an option?
Yep.
Good.
Please place the printing platform. Start detecting.
Here we go.
All right, so it looks like we set everything up, and now it is doing stuff. What's it doing?
What it's going to do is it's going to look for the bed. So it released the little sensor at the bottom of the CR Touch.
Yeah, there's like a little stick that pops out. Is that what it uses to level the bed?
That's what it uses to detect the height of the bed or the distance of the bed. So let's see what it says. Automatic Z offset. So right now the nozzle is heating and the hot bed is heating. It's going to clean the nozzle and then do the automatic Z offset. It's important to do that in case there was any filament left over from any tests that were done at the factory, to make sure that the filament on the end of the nozzle is not erroneously telling the head where it is by having like a little clump that's making it think it's off by even, 0.2 millimeters. So we haven't loaded any filament yet. That'll be the next step once it gets through the automatic Z offset. There's actually a sensor down here under the bottom left or right of the bed, depending on if you're looking at it or not, that measures that. If you were to start printing and you notice that the print is not sticking to the bed well enough for some reason, or your initial layer isn't quite right, you can use Z offset in order to make very minor adjustments to get a better first layer.
So bed leveling, it just means that it's checking that the bed is level across the board, because there's different spots that could be like different heights or different crevices, I guess.
Yeah, leveling is kind of an interesting term to use. It's more tramming is what it's doing. It's making sure that at all points, or as many points as possible across the bed, that the nozzle is the same distance from the bed itself, the top of the bed. So what it does is it goes around using the CR touch to check that, and then the Z offset can be adjusted minor little bits just to make sure that it's either up or down a little bit based on what you need. I still say to people that are just getting into 3D printing, one of the benefits of buying this open form factor 3D printer, often referred to as a bed slinger, is that you really get to see all the parts moving. You get to understand better what the 3D printer is doing. It's not so much a mystery like a black box machine that you're not sure how it's doing what it's doing. So what's interesting about this setup, it has only a single Z motor for both sides. And the way that works is through this Z-rod going up to this gear and belt system, which controls the other Z-rod. And that's just helpful in that it keeps the X-axis level. That's assuming you don't really jank it up or anything like that. But it keeps it a little bit more rigid. It keeps it a little bit better at moving at higher speeds, let's say. And it's just kind of a nice upgrade that not only the KE has, but also the V3 SE as well. Our self-test is completed, as we can tell by the Creality mascot there. So we're going to go ahead and press OK. We can see on the screen now there are two different lines. The green line is the bed temperature and the blue line is the hot end temperature. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to load some filament so that we can start a test print that's built into the printer itself. So we're going to look at the manual now and see how it tells us to get it up to temperature. And it recommends that by tapping on these two little icons here. We're going to start with the bed temperature, and we're going to set that up to 50 degrees and hit OK. That's in Celsius. And then we're going to tap on the hot end, and we're going to take that all the way up to 200 for loading filament. And as you'll see, now we have those set, and that graph is going to show the temperature slowly rising. So let's go ahead and get that filament out of its package and mount it up on top of the printer.
All right, so I got our filament ready. We're going to load it up. But why is it in this vacuum sealed bag?
Well, filament has hygroscopic tendencies and it can take on moisture. If it takes on too much moisture, it could become a little brittle and start to break. So you always want to take care of your 3D printer filament. And the first rule and cardinal rule beyond taking care of the moisture content in your 3D printer filament is always make sure whenever you open a fresh spool to keep an eye on the end of the filament. The last thing you want is that end to tangle underneath itself, which will cause many, many problems with your prints. Take it off first, and then just make sure you're holding on to the end very carefully. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to put it on and then feed it through the runout sensor, and then we'll clip a little bit off. You could do that in a different order, but I think this will be fine. And just pay attention to the arrow. Make sure that we're feeding it down through.
This way?
Yep. And if it's too tough, we can clip the end.
Yeah, it's got a little kink here. Oh wait, maybe.
So I would clip off a little bit with the included diagonal cutters just to give you a clean end. Now that you've got the runout sensor holding it for you, you're a little bit safer. There you go.
Yeah, because that's just going to snap right back.
And go ahead and start to load it in. Now you'll see a little thumb lever presser that you can press in to kind of open it up to help you out. And go ahead and start to press that in.
And I just go till it hits the bottom, basically?
Yeah, keep going till you kind of feel it, and then you'll even see a little bit coming out. Now, don't be concerned if it comes out the wrong color initially, because that is probably what color they were testing the printer with at the factory. So keep pressing it till you kind of see the orange, and be careful because the printer will move in the Z. You can always use your fingers, although they might get a little bit of metal grease on them. Once you clear that off, we are ready to start a test print.
What's this?
You can, or you can just use your fingers.
I don't want to burn my fingers. There we go. Oh, look at that. Aha. Oh, wait,
well done.
It's still going. Wait. It's still going. It's still going.
It's like Spider-Man up in here.
Whoa, oh, there it goes.
We are going to plug in the USB stick to one of the included USB ports. There's 2 on there, and see if they have any demo files for us to use.
USB flash drive inserted.
Click on the little folder icon.
USB drive. Oh, look, there's a boat. It's a Benchy. This is technically going to be my second 3D print because we printed that whistle before, so now I'm going to do this one.
Right.
All right, so I'm just going to press this guy. So this one's already preset.
Yep, it's pre-sliced for this printer. You can see that there's a little checkbox for calibration. Let's leave that checked, and basically it'll go around and do the bed leveling again. But I think you're ready to hit print. We can clear off the bed. A little bit more filament came out. We can clear that off just to make it nice and clean.
Ooh.
And then as that's kind of warming up, there's one more little thing I'd like to do. So you stay here. I'm gonna run over here and grab some isopropyl alcohol. Gonna wait till the printer gets the initial Z height. And then I'm gonna get just a little bit of isopropyl alcohol on this paper towel. And I'm gonna wipe down the area where it will start printing.
Oh, is there like any grease or anything from the factory that you should wipe off when you first start?
Yeah, grease, and then us just kind of handling the 3D printer. We could have left some natural oils on the bed, and it's always good to have a clean bed. I would recommend really between every couple of prints, you either wipe it with isopropyl alcohol, or a lot of people love to use Dawn dish soap. I just figured out you don't actually have to take your whole 3D printer to the sink. You can take just the bed to the sink. And there we have it. They put on the bed like the section where it's going to actually go and run and clean out a little bit of the nozzle. They put like a little icon back there. And this bed that they have is like a textured PEI style bed. This is one of my favorite beds to print with. It leaves a nice texture on the bottom of the print. It allows the filament to kind of get down into the grooves a little bit. But one of the nice things is that it really, really is easy and releases once the print cools, which is a huge improvement over years and years ago, having Captain tape or the blue tape or printing on glass. We've come quite a long way.
All right, I think for my second 3D print ever, oh, it just comes right off. That's not too bad.
Nope.
It's a little Benchy. Are you gonna rate my Benchy?
Yeah, so this is the first print to come off of this printer, and it looks pretty good. I will say that there are some spots where it's got a little bit, it was maybe moving too fast up along these edges. Otherwise, it's not bad Benchy for 16 minutes or so.
How do I stop this from gooping here? Do I slow down the speed?
Yeah, I would slow down the speed a little bit. Maybe decrease the temperature a little bit. But I think for a first print without messing around with hardly any settings, not bad.
What about these archways? Because it looks like these archways had a hard time.
The archways are always going to be tough. Again, slowing it down could help. Knowing that this is a printer that goes speeds of like the K1 and K1 Max without the auxiliary part cooling, you might have that. So again, you're going to have a lot of these open frame or these Bed Slinger type printers now that are running at really fast speeds, but they don't necessarily have all the things that the closed Core XY printers have to compensate for that. So even though this can run upwards of 500 millimeters per second, you might be better off keeping it around the 200 to 300 millimeters per second range.
Anyway, so all right, we made our Benchy. I think what we're going to do next is we're going to slice a file.
Yep, we're going to take the included software that comes on the USB drive that we found the Benchy on. We're going to plug it into our computer back there.
Right back here.
And then we're going to install the Creality slicer and find a file out on the internet for free.
Right here. All right, so I think we plugged in the USB stick, and look at that. Pops up right here. Just drag this to the desktop.
Good idea.
Oh, okay, cool. So it's got a whole bunch of stuff in here.
Let's go ahead into the software, and we are going to install that Creality print slicer.
Sweet.
All right, now we're going to go through some basic setup screens. And then here's where you choose whether you want your slicer, the Creality slicer or Creality print, to work with STLs by default. Let's go ahead and click yes, install. All right, let's go ahead and open up Creality print. And I think the first thing we want to do is make sure that we have Creality print knowing that it has the V3 KE as the printer that we're slicing for. So let's go up to the top right here and add a printer. And then we'll go to the Ender series, and we'll scroll down until we see the V3 KE at the very bottom. Look at that. And then it's going to ask you which nozzle you have in there. Now, by default, the KE comes with a 0.4 nozzle. There might be a point in time where you want to upgrade to a 0.6 millimeter nozzle, but for now, 0.4 is perfect. So we're going to click OK. All right, so this is your empty virtual bed, virtual 3D printing bed. And what we need to do is find a model that we can add to this bed.
Okay, so I went on printables and I found this file for a wallet SD card and micro SD card holder.
Awesome. So what we want to do is we want to download both of those files. They're .stl files, which stands for stereolithography. We're going to extract those. And yeah, I think probably the easiest thing to do is if you can drag them right onto the bed.
I can drag both?
Yep. Let's see what happens.
Ooh.
There they are.
How do I look around? Do I just click?
Yep, if you click and hold, probably the best way is to click with the right mouse button and rotate around. Yep. What I would do is I would find the rotate tool over on the left. Yep. And then I would either try to drag that red arrow, or you can simply type in 90 degrees on the x-axis. All right, so we've laid down that first part. I think that's a better orientation. Why don't we do the same with the other part of the wallet?
What does this one do?
That makes sure that it's the bottom piece is resting on the bed. So I think if you grab that and you click on this, that will change that to the bottom. So that's another way to accomplish what we just did. So let's go grab the move tool. And I would use the red arrow, or yeah, you can just grab it anywhere and move it. Whenever you have parts on a 3D printer bed, I always try to keep them towards the center of the bed, knowing that this icon up here is usually the front left of the bed. So that's kind of if you're looking at the printer face on what it looks like. And we're just going to go with normal at 0.2 millimeters. And what that means is the 0.2 millimeters is the layer height. So how much or how high the layer is before it moves on to the next layer. So if you have something that's 1 millimeter, you would have 5 layers at 0.2 millimeters before it reached the top.
Cool.
Depending on the material you're using, you might select a different material if you're using ABS or ASA or PETG, but I think we're okay with their default Hyper PLA here, even though it's inland PLA. So what we want to do now is we want to actually hit the slice button down here. And now what's kind of cool is you can actually see layer by layer. So if you zoom in with your zoom wheel, you can see layer by layer how that's actually going to work. And then if we grab this little blue dot and start to drag it down, we can kind of see how the printer is going to progress throughout. Now there's a ton of settings. If you can go back like 2 or 3 layers, up one more. There's a ton of settings like infill, which you can adjust and mess with, but we're using their basic profile, which I think is fine for this print. But doing this kind of allows you to see how the printer itself is going to do it layer by layer. And then you can also use this wheel down here to kind of drag and see how the head's going to move as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it's like a visualization of how the print's going to go layer by layer.
Yep. We are going to export to local, basically put it right back on that USB stick. And then I like to make sure that my titles aren't nearly that long, so I would shorten that a ton and maybe just call it something like SD card wallet or holder. I would get rid of any spaces because sometimes 3D printers don't like spaces. They don't like fun characters. So keeping it simple, keeping it short is always good practice. Nope. No smileys.
The smiley faces?
No smileys.
Save it.
Hit save. Save finished, open local folder. This is a good practice just to check that it's where you expect it to be. And what you'll see is that it has a .g code extension. So G code is the code or the language that the printer actually reads in order to move all of the motors in the various directions, heat up all the heaters, make the fans run, and do anything else that the 3D printer is expected to do. But now that we've got that, we can go ahead and pull that out, stick it back in the 3D printer, and hit print.
Cool, let's give it a shot. So I just go to folder.
Yep.
Oh, look, I see it.
And it even has a preview, which is kind of cool.
SD card holder, and it says it's going to take 20 minutes. That's actually not bad.
No, that's awesome.
Calibration on. All right, let's print it.
Today you have unboxed the 3D printer. You've assembled the 3D printer. We've run the test print that was included with the printer, that Benchy. You found a new file on printables.com, downloaded it, you sliced it, put it on the USB drive, put it back in the printer and hit print again, and now you're off to the races.
We had a very productive day.
Yeah.
We did a lot.
All right, Jordan, you've got a functional 3D print. Took under 30 minutes on this Ender-3 V3 KE from Creality. You found the file on printables.com, downloaded it, you sliced it using Creality print software, and here we are with your functional print. What do you think?
I like it. It's functional, it's good. This will fit in my pocket easy. I carry SD cards all day around here anyway, so this will help me keep organized. And yeah, now I'm thinking, I kind of know what I'm doing. I think I know what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go crazy and print a bunch of stuff. And then maybe in a week or two, you could sit down with me and look at everything I printed and you can grade it, see how it looks, maybe give some tips and tricks, a couple of pointers.
Sure, I would be happy to do that. You want to do that right here in the Maker Lab at MicroCenter?
There's no better place for it.
Awesome. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below and we will see you next time. And don't forget, comment below with your favorite color of inland 3D printer filament and what 3D printer you're currently using.
And if you don't have a MicroCenter near you, make sure you comment hashtag I want a MicroCenter near me.